Hello and welcome back to the channel. The support has been great so far, so I'm going to try and replicate the support by keeping as consistent as I can with these videos. So without further ado, let's get into the weekend preview. First up on the weekend, we look at the soccer, and no better place to start than the Champions League final, which is on this Saturday in Budapest between PSG and Arsenal. So when doing the reaction video to Arsenal winning the Premier League, I think I also mentioned that Arsenal could become the second team to ever win the Premier League and Champions League double, of course. Man United and Man City have also done the treble of winning the FA Cup as well. But only one other side has won the Premier League and Champions League in the same season, which was Manchester United in 2007 and 2008. So this could be a very, very historic double for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. Obviously, then their opponents, PSG, they have the possibility as well of going back-to-back winners. I think when we all kind of watched PSG years ago with the teams and the players that they had Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, Cavani, Zlatan, Ibrahimovic, a lot of these lads as well, even going back further. I don't think we also kind of thought at the time that if they couldn't get the job done at that time, that they were probably never going to do it, and they were probably too much of a team of superstars and maybe individuals. But I think what Luis Enrique has done at PSG by building up a team of, I suppose, good talent throughout Europe, and I suppose within their squad anyway, and creating this powerhouse that they've become over the last year or so. Obviously Ousmane Dembele winning the Ballon d'Or as well after PSG winning the Champions League last year. So I think you can actually feel very happy for PSG. I think before people used to say, that they've bought it because they've bought so many brilliant players and what have you, but I think people can take a lot of notice of what PSG have done and actually really take them seriously now as a massive competitor in Europe. Of course, probably one of the bigger talking points of the game is the fact that PSG are so good attacking. Desiree Doué, Kvaratskhelia from Georgia, Ousmane Dembele, you could list Barcola, so many lads you can name off. But the thing with PSG is the fact that, granted, they're scoring a lot and things like that, but if you look at Arsenal, they're not really conceding. Their defence is probably one of the best and most solid in Europe. I think the Champions League semi-final is really where you got to kind of see that in full flow. They might not have created a savage amount of chances against Atletico Madrid in either leg, really. But they got their important goal, and Atletico Madrid are always kind of one of them teams that you have to be kind of wary of, and they're never really out of the game, but they never really looked like they were even in the tie, which is very strange for an Atletico Madrid team under Diego Simeone. You're always kind of looking at them as a team that you always, as I said, have to be wary of, and it's not over till it's over, but they never even really got into it to begin with. So that's something massive that Mikel Arteta and Arsenal can take with them going into the Champions League final. And obviously winning the Premier League, they might have absolutely no reason now to fear PSG. They probably shouldn't. Obviously, of course, they're playing the last year's champions who are going for a double or a two in a row Champions League win. But from an Arsenal perspective, if you're an Arsenal fan, you can fear them a bit going forward, but I think at the back you can be fairly confident that they're going to try and keep them at bay as much as possible. If I had to make my prediction, I'd probably say PSG could just get over the line, but I wouldn't be surprised either if Arsenal did it. Maybe a 1-0 win would not surprise me at all. The season they've had, they're winning games marginally, but they're letting go of very few chances has made them very tough to beat. So look, it's probably going to be a game that's separated by one goal. I can't see either team hammering the other, but I don't think we could see that as well with the Champions League final last year, and PSG kind of really did Inter Milan there as well. So look, we don't know, but it definitely will be a brilliant final. Other soccer now, obviously the domestic leagues have finished, so we have international friendlies this week and next before the World Cup starts on the 11th of June. Ireland play Qatar tonight in the Aviva at the time of recording this, and they also play Canada next Saturday. Both opponents are obviously in the World Cup, and unfortunately, as we all know, Ireland are not there. What could have been a tremendous summer for the Irish is kind of just another one that we get to just see off, and I suppose look at maybe League of Ireland football and other things like that, which of course League of Ireland football is absolutely brilliant, but obviously Ireland in a summer competition would have been superb, but it didn't work out that way. I think Ireland are growing a very strong young squad, and hopefully they can in the next couple of years they can get even more competitive, which I'm sure will be the case. Next up now in golf, it is the 80th year of the Charles Schwab Challenge, which takes place in Fort Worth, Texas. There are 6 golfers on the field this weekend who will look to become just the 12th golfer to win this tournament for the second time. And Swedish golfer Ludvig Åberg is the bookies' favourite heading into the tournament this weekend at a price of 8-1. Now, next up in horse racing, we have one that is slightly closer for me here in Kerry, as we have the Listowel Whit Weekend on Saturday, Sunday and Monday. This one is a mix of flats and jumps. Saturday is mostly jumps. Sunday then is a mix of both. And then Sunday is dependent on the entries and the conditions of the course after the previous 2 days. All the big trainers are expected to have horses in this one this weekend, with the likes of Willie Mullins, Joseph O'Brien, Aidan O'Brien and Jessica Harrington all expected to have competitors on the course this weekend. Kevin Coleman's horse Big Dispute is racing in the 426 on Saturday there, and he looks to be one of the bigger ones to have an eye on this weekend. Also this weekend we hope to have a quieter weekend than last weekend in the GAA, as we have the 4 final games of the first round of the All-Ireland Football Championship. First up we have Westmeath against Cavan. Westmeath obviously winning the Leinster Championship a couple of weeks ago in Croke Park against Dublin, so they'll really want to drive on now and put out another big statement like they did a couple of weeks ago against the Dubs. For Cavan, we haven't seen them since their 7-point loss to Armagh in the quarter-final of the Ulster Championship. Obviously, Armagh eventual winners in Ulster, so Cavan will find it very difficult, I think, to beat Westmeath in Westmeath. But as we've seen between the provincials and even last week's games, the grain isn't always the one to go with, and anything can happen in the football championship. We have an Ulster clash then in the second game between Armagh and Derry. Obviously, of course, Armagh, as we just said, the Ulster champions, facing off against Derry, who could have played in that Ulster final but lost in dramatic fashion. If you remember Rory Beggan's kick from the sideline, winning that one from Monaghan, putting them into the final. But we haven't seen Derry since that, so they could be a bit of a wounded animal, so it might not be the best time for Armagh to play them. Speaking of wounded animals, and we go on to the next game of Dublin against Louth. As we mentioned previously, Dublin lost in extra time against Westmeath a couple of weeks ago, so they'll definitely want to get back on track against Louth. The last time these two faced each other, it was in the Leinster semi-final, which Dublin won 20 points to 10. So you'd see it as a run-in-the-mill win for Dublin, but you never know. They could either be kind of really shivering after the Westmeath defeat, or else they will drive on, which I'm sure all the Dubs will hope they will do. And then finally for the weekend in the Senior Championship, we have Monaghan against Mayo, the Ulster finalists against the Connacht semi-finalists. Both teams had tough ends to their provincial runs, with Monaghan obviously losing in extra time against Armagh, and Mayo then losing to Roscommon, which wasn't great, and Mayo haven't really shown themselves in a great light so far this year. They finished high in the league, Mayo, but they lost by 10 points at home to Roscommon in the Connacht semi-final, which was a real kick in the teeth and an eye-opener for Mayo. Hopefully they might have used this time like the likes of Cork and Donegal to kind of reflect and dust themselves off on their provincial losses, and maybe kick on with this one would be a real eye-opener for people around the country if they were to beat Monaghan, I think, in Monaghan this weekend. Monaghan, of course, had a dreadful league campaign, finishing last and being relegated to Division 2, but they somehow look to be the better side if you were to go off how they played in Ulster and how Mayo played in Connacht. You'd probably edge this game slightly to Monaghan, but we don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely cracking one, because they're two teams that we're not really too sure about at this stage, and I think it could be one that we'll be very excited about. So my predictions for the weekend, I have Westmeath, Armagh, Dublin and Monaghan winning their games and progressing to the winner's circle. So we'll have to see how that goes. And finally, to finish off the weekend preview, we have an All-Ireland final this weekend. We have the Under-20 All-Ireland football final between Tyrone and Kerry in Croke Park. Tyrone are going for 3 in a row in the Under-20 Championship, as Kerry last won the competition in 2008, where it was the Under-21 Championship at the time. Both sides are probably well deserving to get to this stage, Kerry beating Roscommon by 9 to get to the final, and Tyrone beating Kildare by 5 in both semi-finals. I feel out of the two sides, Tyrone will probably look to more than likely be more favourable to get to their 3 in a row. And the only thing that maybe just have the doubt in the back of Kerry minds is probably that second round Munster Championship loss to Cork, where the score was unbelievably low at half time, and even in full time many called it that it was the worst Kerry under-20 performance or under-21 performance they'd ever seen in a long time. So for them reasons, I have Tyrone winning the All-Ireland in the under-20s on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. in Croke Park. So yeah, that's it. That's the weekend preview. We've soccer, football, golf and horse racing all to look forward to this weekend. Champions League finals. The first round finishes up in the All-Ireland Championship. Golf in Texas and local racing here in Kerry. So look, everybody, if you enjoyed the video, if you could like and subscribe and maybe share it to somebody who hasn't seen the channel before, it all would be really appreciated. And we'll talk to you on more than likely Tuesday, I would say, for the weekend review.